So they said no travel for you. But she's going to try to call in, and when she gets in, we'll put his remarks on the mic. But I'll just turn it over to Sally, and then we'll hear from a few other folks in the meantime. So have at it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me here at Sioux Falls. It's my first time. And I'm the youngest sibling, and I was adopted by the Brownes family at the age of 5 from an orphanage in Hong Kong. I'm very fortunate to have grown up with such a talented, loving family. Most of you know Chris as Hager in his later years, but I knew Chris as more like Hamlet. Have you ever seen the strip? You see Hamlet is the young son, Hager's son. Well, actually, when Chris was young, he was Hamlet. Chris was the sweet, shy type of kid. And so my father really modeled Hamlet after Chris. And so then when I grew up, I came to this family and they were really big people. My father was very tall and my brother Chance was very tall. And I was growing up with very petite nuns. So when I came to Connecticut, it was overwhelming. But however, Chris and Bob, or Chance is his artistic name, they were really the first males that helped me overcome my fear of like big, tall men. And when my parents would go out, they would babysit me. And Bob's form of babysitting was take me to music gigs and jam sessions because he was a musician. Whereas Chris' form of babysitting was he liked to spend a lot of one-on-one time with me. He would read to me, he would, draw for me, and he was sort of like a kid himself. And I remember when we were a teenager, when everyone remembers the Star Wars movies, and Chris wanted to go to the premiere. And at that time, they just started having IMAX screens. And so Chris said, oh, we gotta go. And it ended up being like an hour and a half drive up to see and also he failed to tell me that it started at 9 p.m. at night. So when we got there, it was like 7:30 at night, there was a line around the block. And I looked at him like, really? He was like, yeah, and he was so excited. He was like a kid in a candy store. The whole time in the line, he just kept talking about Star Wars. And he couldn't wait to be the very first to go to IMAX IMAX movie theater and see Star Wars. So anyway, hold on, okay. I'm sorry, but Chris was also very protective of me. He was always defending me against bullies. And one time I broke my arm, and he was the first to come to the hospital with my parents, and he laid a little teddy bear next to me. And also Chris was always rescuing animals. He loved animals. And he and I, we rescued this little kitten that was bitten by a dog. And so she had to wear a cone around her neck, and we had to spoon feed her food. And he and I spent together 4 months taking care of that little kitten. He would also love to go to the pound, and he would rescue dogs. He would just take any dog and say, oh, we're going to bring it home, and we're going to take care of it. And so that was his beginning of collecting dogs, stray dogs. But also, Chris always has a sketchbook in hand, and whenever we'd go anywhere, Chris would do doodles and drawing. Instead of a camera, most people take pictures, well, Chris would draw. That was like his camera. And so whatever's around him, he would draw people, he would draw animals. And I'm sure all of you have gotten a copy of Chris's drawings. And there's 2 drawings that I have to tell you that really is the quintessential Chris. One of them, when I went to Taiwan to study Chinese, and he wanted to give me a birthday card. My father, they never wrote to me. They were always drawing cards. They were drawing instead of writing to me. And this one card was so unique. He had me wearing a Chinese dress, and in the background was like a Godzilla movie. And There was like Godzilla and Mothra and all these, and you know, monsters. And then the caption was, "We're not going to stop until we wish Sally a very happy 22nd birthday." So I thought that was Chris. And another drawing he did for me. I also love potbelly pigs, and so I was telling him about my potbelly pig and how spoiled he was. So Chris, like Chris, he drew this drawing for me of Oscar Mayer was his name. He had Oscar Mayer sitting on a pillow, and he had on his right a big bottle of wine, and he's sniffing a rose, and he's writing the most decadent pig, Oscar Mayer. So that, you know, that cartoon really came to my mind. But you know, Chris really loved children too. And he would spend hours with my son, his nephew. And when I came back from Germany, I ended up working for, you know, my family. And Chris and I would always be the last to leave the office. And we had these long talks, and I'd ask him, you know, besides drawing Hanger, what else do you like to do? And he said, well, his goal was to draw children's books, because he just loved doing illustrations for children. And I was very happy to learn that he finally did have a children's book published. But most of all, you know, when you look at Chris's drawings, you really see the childlike innocence about Chris. He was always drawing, you know, just beautiful things, as you could see, about animals and people, and he was always able to connect with whatever that person is doing in their life. He could draw for them, connecting that person's background or whatever was going in their life, like with me with my pet pig, or me going to Taiwan. So he was just a gentle giant in his spirit and soul, and most of all in his talent. His drawings were full of childlike wonderment and revealed his childlike innocence that he carried with him to the end of life. Whenever I would see his drawing, I would see Chris's inner soul. He once did a drawing for our father, which he gave to me after our dad passed. It was a picture of our father with a beard and a top hat. He sort of looked like Abraham Lincoln. And he wrote to Dad, he said, Tuesday night, Dad had a dream. Dad had a dream that a doctor told him that he was the luckiest man in the world. Dad couldn't believe his ears, but then he thought of his life and his family, and he said to the doctor, you know, you're right, I am the luckiest person. And I remember those words. I feel like we are all so lucky to know Chris, and to know, you know, to know his talent and how he made the world a happier place through his art and humanity. On behalf of the Browne family, I want to thank you all for being here to celebrate Chris Browne, who is an amazing brother, your fellow cartoonist, and most important, a friend of all. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Sally. So she's going to try to dial up